Welcome to Legal Contact. I'm Dovi.
I'm Benny. Let's talk football.
Just before we start, I want to give a little bit of a tribute to Charlie Kirk. Rip Charlie. He's a good man. Let's get into the week that was in football. So we're going to start by reviewing two games that happened this week.
So we're going to start with Jets Steelers. That was a hell of a game. Aaron
Rodgers with his auraless celebration when he threw a touchdown. Honestly, I think it was just a lot of dinks and dunks. I don't think he was that impressive. He had 244 yards and 4 tuds. That does account for something, but it just didn't feel like Aaron Rodgers, the old Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he looked good. Don't get me wrong. But can he sustain this kind of pace for the whole season and actually bring the Steelers past a wild card game?
Look, I agree with you, honestly. Of course, he looks his age. He looks 41, but for a 41-year-old quarterback, he looked damn good.
That's for sure.
If we're being real, and can he sustain it? I don't know. We'll see. Last year, towards the end of the season, he actually started playing better. I think it was just fun to see the Jets revert to their natural state.
Yeah, although Justin Fields looked good too. I mean, he had a nice throw to Garrett Wilson. I think it was in the first half of the game with kind of a rainbow ball, but he did look like Justin Fields. I mean, yeah, it was. I really enjoyed the game. I thought up until the next game that we're going to review, it was the best game we had all week one. And yeah, I don't think anyone pegged Jets Steelers week one to be a great game, but it turned out to be one of the best games of the week.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And your take on Justin Fields, spot on. He had a great game. I had him on my bench in fantasy. I started Bo Nix.
Bo Nix tough.
That lost me my league. So
brutal.
Shout out Justin Fields. I wish I'd started him.
Yeah, he was good. I think, just a quick fantasy aside, I think he might actually be very startable going forward. We'll see if Breece Hall takes away from his carries. Breece Hall had a nice day at 100 yards, averaging 5.6 yards a carry. That's a really, really good pace. But I think, Justin Fields is going to be really solid this year, at least fantasy-wise.
Yeah, I agree. That's a hell of a ground game for the Jets. All right, do you think let's move on to the Bills versus the Ravens? This was honestly probably one of the best football games I've ever watched. It was an honor to get to watch it. It was just, again, no defense whatsoever, none to speak of, but it was just an incredibly fun game to watch. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was, like, as you said, an honor. I mean, I was sitting there, and just every moment I was glued to the screen, and the fourth quarter game came. Bills are down 40-25. You think there's no way they're actually going to pull it off. And Josh Allen throws over 200 yards just in the fourth quarter. He was incredible. He almost threw for 400 yards in the entire game. He did throw 46 passes, which is quite a bit, but he was insane. Lamar Jackson played decent, played well. He didn't throw a lot, but he was efficient on his throw. 209 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. D-Hop, you saw D-Hop's catch?
Unbelievable. If you want to hear an interesting statistic, actually, with that catch, DeAndre Hopkins now is tied for the league lead for one-handed catches since 2017. He's tied with Garrett Wilson and Courtland Sutton.
Really? How do they track that metric?
I don't know, but that's just a statistic I saw.
That's actually fascinating. But yeah, his hands are massive. It was sick. It was amazing. The entire game, I mean, you had Derrick Henry, went for 169 yards. That's insane. He averaged 9.4 a carry on 18 carries. I mean, he's ageless.
The dude was brilliant. Unfortunately, it was overshadowed by that fumble late. They honestly very likely would have won the game if not for that fumble. And it's just like, it's hard to come back from that, because even though he had an incredible performance, a generational performance, efficiency wise, even if not yards wise, ultimately he lost his team the game.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
It's definitely true.
It's tough.
But this week also made me fully understand that he's actually a Hall of Fame player, and he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, he's been electric. He's top 10 in touchdowns all time. He's going to finish the season likely top 10 in yards all time for running backs. His longevity, how old is he?
At least 30, I think 31 maybe even.
That's crazy, yeah. So, I mean, he's been amazing, and he's showed it week one. I mean, he might end up. It's him and Saquon, I think, for who's going to be the best running back in the league this year.
Oh, certainly. And speaking of Saquon, I think he's a running back. I think he's a Hall of Famer as well. The season he had last year, just based on what we know from Terrell Davis,
Just because he
you
had an
know,
all-time season, one all-time season.
all-time season plus the Super Bowl. We saw with Terrell Davis. That's what and that propelled him into the Hall of Fame. We'll see, but I think good chance Saquon makes it there too. Just as an aside.
I think he has to have a little bit more longevity. Yeah, but it's an interesting conversation to have, honestly. But yeah, the king is still the king.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Watching Derrick Henry play is honestly, it's awesome.
It's magical.
He's just so much bigger and stronger than every single other person.
Yeah.
Especially every single other running back, but usually every other person on the field, barring the O lineman. It's crazy.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, now this is a new segment we're trying out. What was your biggest surprise from NFL's Week 1 slate of games?
So a lot of people will say that this wasn't really a surprise, but I think the way JJ McCarthy ended up pulling out the win on Monday night, I personally, I will say I didn't really believe in JJ McCarthy, and the first half of Monday Night Football kind of proved that right.
Yeah.
But then JJ, he managed to pull it off, respect to him, and I was surprised. And I think JJ McCarthy is going to end up, I don't think he's going to be incredible, but I think he's going to have a good career. It's only been one game, but that's my take.
I agree. I think he outplayed Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams looked really bad. He missed so many throws. I mean, I saw the all 22. I think it was on Instagram of all the throws that he missed. I think the leading receiver for the Bears was the turf. It was brutal. It was a brutal game for Caleb, and JJ, he looked good, and he had a touchdown to Justin Jefferson at the end of the game, which cost me a win in fantasy, but
sorry to hear that.
That's okay. That is, I agree. That is quite surprising.
What do you view? What's your biggest surprise from this week?
So, for my friend who's a Dolphins fan, I'm going to apologize in advance. My biggest surprise was just how awful the Dolphins were. I mean, they're a team with so much talent. Tua, we know what he can do. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane. I mean, on the defensive side, they have a good defensive line, and they got destroyed by Danny Dimes. This guy he's not good, and their best receiver is Michael Pittman. I mean, he's good, but he's not Tyreek Hill. He's not even Jalen Waddle. It's the fact that they were up, I think it was 30-0 at one point is insane. I thought the Dolphins are going to be better. The Broncos are playing Colts this week, so we'll see what version of the Colts we get. But the Dolphins playing like that against a team which no one thought would be good this year, it was not only surprising, but honestly disappointing. The NFL is more fun when the Dolphins are good. So yeah, that's my biggest surprise of the week.
I agree completely. Honestly, it was pathetic. It was really, really sad. The Dolphins, they just laid down and died. If they were playing the Ravens or the Bills or the Eagles or the Chiefs, any of these high-powered teams or the Lions, I'd be like, okay, fine, I get it, but the Colts, man, come on. Unless maybe the Colts are in for a really, really good year. But
with Danny Dimes,
I don't believe it. Yeah, I think the Dolphins just shat themselves, honestly.
I think they may have shit the bed.
Yeah, it was really, really, really sad. Dolphins, do better.
Yeah, do better. I mean, you can't make the Colts look this good.
Disappointing, man.
Very disappointing. Okay, and now for what everyone's been waiting for. The Broncos. So we're going to just disclaimer, the Broncos look trash.
Yeah, awful. I mean, the offense looked trash. The defense looked fantastic
Against a rookie quarterback. Yes, they looked good. They had 6 sacks. They did look good.
But you got to play who's in front of you.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, maybe if it wasn't Cam Ward, they would have lost. Possibly. Who knows? But the way the offense played was honestly sad. Bo Nix was hyped up to hell, and he played terrible. I hope he can bounce back. But he 2 picks and a fumble. And they weren't like close picks. They weren't the receiver's fault. They were bad picks. The fumble was a bad fumble. He wasn't even properly stripped. Jeffrey Simmons just ran into the ball and he fell out of his hands.
Yeah.
Not good for our boy Bo. We hope he looks better.
Yeah, it was really disappointing. And I mean, Sean Payton has to take some of the blame. Why are you making Bo throw up 40 times in week 1 against a team like the Titans? RJ Harvey, averaged 11 yards a carry. Like, what are we doing here, man? The running game was solid. J.K. Dobbins was good. 16 carries, 3.9 average, 63 yards. That's a very respectable stat line. You have to run the ball more. And the fact that they didn't, right, is disappointing and could have lost them in the game. The fact that they were playing a rookie quarterback in his first NFL game honestly saved their asses. I think if they had played a decently competent team, I think this would have been not only closer, but maybe the Broncos even lose it.
Yeah, I agree, and especially, like, on the play calling side, yeah, I agree. Sean Payton, he had some head-scratching calls like that 4th and 8 at the end of the game, where instead of kicking a field goal, which would have put them ahead by 11, if I'm not mistaken, they decided to go for it, and they didn't even have it didn't even feel like a real play. The ball was snapped, and Bo Nix just threw it as high as he could.
Yeah, he was under pressure, and Bo looked really bad under pressure. It was
Is Yeah, look, you gotta give the Titans defense their flowers. However, everyone's gonna want us to eat our words. The Broncos are 1-0,
that is facts.
as far as we're concerned.
Leave all your hate comments. We don't care.
Exactly. As far as we're concerned, they still can very much be on pace for 13-4. 1-0 is 1-0, no matter what that one looks like.
That is true. That's true. A win's a win, and you can be the best team all year and have one bad game in the playoffs, and you're done. A win's a win. Doesn't matter how you win it, but we need to see more because it was a very, very disappointing game. It was painful to watch and was reminiscent of the Broncos football that we've been seeing for the past 10 years, where the offense has been awful. The play calling has been awful. The quarterback has been awful. And there's always some, light in the darkness, like a good defense or court looking good or whatever.
Yeah, we just gotta hope they're gonna bounce back, against the Colts, and I think that leads us very into our next talking point, Broncos Colts. What do you think?
I mean, it's in the loud house. Shut up, McAfee. And I think, Danny Dimes is going to look like Danny Dimes of old because the Broncos defense is going to come to play as they always do. Um, Michael Pittman Jr., he's getting shut down. Pat Surtain is shutting him down. I think Calvin Ridley last week had 0 catches against when Pat Surtain is the closest defender. I think Michael Pittman's going to be the same. It's going to be close. If the offense does well, the Broncos should blow this team out.
I agree, but I also would have said that they would blow out the Titans, and they didn't. I think, honestly, you can say the Titans defense is actually better than the Colts defense, so we'll see how it goes there. I think the Titans don't have a great secondary. I think if Bo Nix is able to stay calm, which last week we saw he was having a hard time, he was getting very flustered. He was yelling a lot. He wasn't able to stay calm. If he can stay calm this week, I think Bo Nix can tear it up. We'll see what happens. I agree with you. The Broncos defense, they're gonna destroy Danny Dimes. He was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, his whole career.
For good reason.
Yeah, he's a sack merchant.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor hopefully drops the ball before the end zone. Shout
Yes,
out to him
sir.
last year.
Oh man, the Broncos would have lost that game if not for that.
Yeah,
Massive
probably.
momentum
That-
shift.
Probably they had deflated the Colts completely. So
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, do it again if you don't mind. And yeah, I agree. Michael Pittman is going to be a non-factor.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing is, Dre Greenlaw for the second straight week looks like he's not going to play, which is a shame because we still haven't seen him play in a Broncos uniform. But still, the defense looked solid. Honestly, this is a Broncos win.
I agree. Who's your player to watch for the Broncos?
I think RJ Harvey. I think you have to keep giving it to him. He was really good last week. I really think he's going to have a good game. I think he's going to take over from J.K. Dobbins by week 4 or 5 as the starter, as people have been predicting, especially fantasy wise. I think it's RJ Harvey. He's going to be the key to the game.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I would also add J.K. Dobbins into it. I think the running back by committee is something that Sean Payton has loved doing his entire career. And hopefully, I hope to see it be more even this week than it was last week, touches wise. I think if the Broncos can stick to the run game, keep the Colts guessing. Because last week, every time the Broncos went play action, no one thought they were handing it off because they were barely handing it off. Keep the Colts guessing when you're doing play action. And I agree. If the run game's good, if the run game's solid, I think the Broncos win this easy. If the run game's having a hard time, I think it'll be much harder for the Broncos.
I agree with that. I do think it's dependent on the run game. It's gonna be a fun game. That's for sure.
Looking forward to it. All right, let's move on to our predictions for this week's schedule. Just a disclaimer, this episode is coming out after Thursday Night Football, so we're going to start with the Jags Bengals game on Sunday. What do you think?
I think the Bengals take this, especially in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, slow week one as he often does, but I think they win this. I mean, Trevor Lawrence didn't look good. The Jags didn't look good. They won because they were playing the Panthers. Panthers are bad. What do you think?
I'll take this. I'm sure the Bengals are the favorites. I don't know exactly by how much, but I'm going to take the upset here. The Jaguars looked like a better team last week than the Bengals did. And you're saying like the Jaguars, they looked like that because they played the Panthers. Yeah, well, the Bengals played the Browns, and the Browns are kind of trash. They kind of suck. This is
That's for
supposed to be
sure.
this was the most high-powered offense in football last year, and they looked bad. They should have lost. If not for the Browns having a shitty kicker, they would have lost. I'm going to take the Jags over here.
Wow. Yeah, that is. I mean, the Bengals are favored by 3.5, but that's an interesting take. Dallas, New York, in Dallas. Giants, Cowboys, classic rivalry NFC East game.
It's got to be the Cowboys. Come on, if Russ wasn't starting, I'd say it would be a little more competitive. But Russ looked horrible last week. It's in my eyes, no brainer. Cowboys are going to blow them out by 30. I hate the Cowboys, so it doesn't give me any joy. But I'm just being realistic.
Did you see the Scadaboo running over the guy? It was like a 4-yard run, but like he literally just ran him over. He's so fun to watch. He's like Alstott or whatever his name was. Alstott.
I don't remember. However, yeah, he is. He's one of those guys, but just him. The Giants are just so dysfunctional.
Yeah,
it's not going to do much for them.
When do you think Jackson Dart starts? What week? What week do they bench Russ?
I think either week 3 or they give Jameis a few starts and he starts like week 5.
I can't wait to watch the Jameis run Giants. 4 picks a game, but 3 insane touchdowns also.
I hope that happens.
Yeah,
be awesome.
Yeah, I think Dallas takes this also, especially in Dallas in Jerry World. Giants don't look great. As long as I think the Cowboys take this.
What about Detroit, Chicago? At Detroit, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, this is an easy one. I mean, I know Detroit lost last week against the Packers, but I can't pick the Bears. I mean, they looked so bad. I mean, Caleb Williams, he just doesn't look good. I'm taking Detroit. Detroit is favored by 6.5, which is I think the 3rd or 4th biggest largest odds of the week.
Yeah, I agree. I predicted Caleb Williams to be a bust from when he was still in college,
Called it.
Well, look, we don't know yet, but yeah, I don't think he's going to be good. I think Detroit's going to bounce back. I think they're probably pissed off. Yeah, again, not much else to say. I think Detroit takes this easily.
Okay, Los Angeles, Tennessee, at Tennessee. Rams versus Titans.
It's got to be the Rams. They beat the Texans last week. The Texans are a much better team than the Titans are. They're not going to see the Titans aren't seeing week 1 Bo Nix every week. I think it's going to be, honestly, this week's slate, there's not a lot of like very close, high-powered matchups.
No, it's a pretty, I mean, we never know.
Of course.
Because it's only week 2.
True.
But it looks to be a relatively mundane week in the NFL. But I think I'll take the Rams as well. Tennessee, Cam Ward, we haven't seen much. There's a reason to have the number 1 overall pick last year. Let's just say that.
Yep, definitely. What about the Patriots versus the Dolphins? Who do you take there?
At Miami?
At Miami.
The Patriots lost to the Raiders. Gino had a solid game. I think he had over 300 yards. I think Miami's going to be mad. I think Miami takes this. They were bad last week. They were really bad, but I think they were embarrassed. And I think they're going to beat the Patriots. Patriots starting off 0-2. Drake May, 0-2 against his first ring of the season.
I actually disagree with you in 2 ways. I think, first of all, if it was possible, both teams would lose this game.
I wish both teams would lose.
But I'm going to take New England here. I think on paper, before the season, we would have said Miami's a better team. But I think now, after what we saw last week, the lack of production, the complete dysfunction of this Mike McDaniels team, I think the Patriots are just better. They're just better coached. They're gonna mess up less and they're gonna win a close one.
Fair take. What about San Francisco, the Niners versus the Saints in New Orleans?
It's got to be the Niners. They're injured to hell.
Even though Brock Purdy's out?
They're injured to hell, but at least they're not the Saints.
Who's even starting at quarterback there?
I'll be honest, I don't know. We should check.
Yeah.
But again, the Saints are not.
Saints are
The Saints
bad.
are they're just really bad. Honestly, probably the worst team in football. The Cardinals last week almost lost to them, but that's also because the Cardinals are pretty bad, you know.
So
But
this is the battle of Mac Jones versus Spencer Rattler. Wow, fascinating matchup.
Mac Jones has had his moments, you know.
He was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, he was. He gritted into the end zone, if I remember
He
correctly.
did, yeah, in the Pro Bowl. It was
Pro Bowl.
hideous.
It was Mike Gesicki-esque.
It was, yeah, quite. Um, White boys can't gritty. But yeah, I think you have to take the Niners. I mean, New Orleans is going to be the worst team in football this year, in my opinion. They have nothing going for them.
Yep. I think, yeah, enough said. Honestly, what do you think about Buffalo, New York, the Jets at MetLife?
I think Buffalo gets this. I mean, I think it's going to be a more interesting game than people think. The line's at 6.5. I think it's going to be closer than that. But I think the Bills definitely win this. Especially, I mean, MetLife is not really a home field advantage. No offense to the Jets. Shout out Levy. But the
Shout out
Bills,
Levy.
the Bills, the Bills are going to win this.
I agree, even though I don't want to, because I actually like the Justin Fields story. I like the Justin Fields comeback. I've always liked him as a player. I want him to do well, but yeah, I think the Bills are just not a team that they can beat. It's not an offense that they can outplay. Even if the defenses don't show up, the Jets offense just can't outduel Josh Allen and the Bills. Yeah. So I would agree with you there.
Speaking of Jets quarterbacks, Seattle at Pittsburgh. Sam Darnold versus Aaron Rodgers. Who are you taking? I
think the Steelers really impressed last week, and the Seahawks really underperformed. So especially that it's in Pittsburgh. I'm going to go, especially now that Aaron Rodgers is still fresh, still early in the season, I'm going to go Pittsburgh here.
Yins is going to go with Pittsburgh. I agree. We still don't know what Sam Darnold's going to look like long term, but yeah, I think the Aaron Rodgers Steelers looked good, and I think they start off the season 2-0. Cleveland versus Baltimore. Joe Flacco revenge game.
It's crazy in Baltimore. It's not going to be close. The Ravens are pissed the hell off. They're going to kick the shit out of the Browns. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Harbaugh, I mean, he has to have not slept a wink since he gave up that 15-point lead in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I mean, the Ravens are taking this all day. Sorry, boy.
What do you think about Broncos Colts? We discussed this, but we didn't really give a prediction. Who do you think takes it?
Broncos. It's actually a close. The money line's at -1.5. Denver is the favorites, but I think the Broncos definitely take this one. As long as the offense is even decent, they don't even need to be good, just decent. They're gonna take this.
I agree, and of course we're not biased.
No, never. No bias.
Not biased.
No bias. No.
This is an objective take.
13-4. Don't forget.
Exactly.
Never forget 9/11.
Broncos win the Super Bowl. Objective. But yeah, of course, I think the Broncos are definitely going to beat the Colts. The Colts should be terrible. Danny Dimes should be terrible. We'll see what happens.
Heck yeah.
What do you think about Carolina, Arizona? At Arizona?
I don't know. It's hard to know with the Cardinals. You never know which version of Kyler Murray you're going to get. Bryce Young has looked awful. I mean, yeah, I have to take Arizona in this one. It's not going to be a fun game to watch. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be messy. I mean, if it wasn't the 4 or 5 window, I think it would just get buried under all the other games.
I agree. And an interesting statistic, actually, Kyler Murray and Bryce Young are combined 3 feet tall.
Whoa. Yeah. I think 3 feet is, he's being very generous.
Yeah.
That's what it says officially, but it might be a little bit below.
A little bit, like 2'8", 2'9". But yeah, I think Carolina's going to take it. I think Bryce Young is going to step up, and I think the Cardinals, I think they're going to miss the playoffs entirely. So we'll see what happens.
Super Bowl rematch. Eagles versus Chiefs in Chiefs Kingdom.
So this game is a crime that it's not in prime time, honestly.
By the way.
But however, I think it's going to be less entertaining than we think it's going to be. The Chiefs offense was underwhelming. The Eagles offense was, besides for Jalen Hurts' legs, the Eagles offense was also kind of underwhelming.
A.J. Brown was really bad.
A.J. Brown didn't exist.
He looked like a decoy.
I started him on both my fantasy teams.
Brutal.
Awful. But I think Philly takes it again. I think as bad, Philly looked better last week than Kansas City did. I think they have a better team than Kansas City does, even though Kansas City has Mahomes. And you don't want to bet against Mahomes, I'll take Philadelphia. So this game.
While that does sound amazing, Chiefs starting 0-2, that would be beautiful. I don't see Patrick Mahomes starting the season off 0-2. I hate to do this. I hate the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs take this. It's in Arrowhead. They're upset that they lost against the Chargers in Brazil. I got to take the Chiefs in this one, even though they are technically the underdogs. But yep, Chiefs take home that win.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I can definitely see that happening as well. Atlanta, Minnesota. In Minnesota, what do you think?
Ooh, I like JJ McCarthy. Give me the Vikings again. They're on Sunday Night Football. Should be a solid game, honestly. We got Bijan Robinson, Jake London on one side. We got Jay Jettis, Justin Jefferson on the other side with JJ McCarthy. Give me the Vikings for a good one on Sunday night.
Yeah, I agree. I think this game is going to be more exciting than we would have thought, a couple weeks ago. And honestly, yeah, I agree. Minnesota, they looked good. They looked good on Sunday. At the end of the game, JJ McCarthy seemed to get his legs under him. I agree. Minnesota. I take it.
This week we have two Monday night games, both on ESPN, one at 7 and one at 10. The first one is Tampa Bay at Houston, the Bucks versus the Texans. Who do you got?
I'm going to take the Buccaneers. I believe in Baker, and I believe that CJ, since his rookie year, has just looked worse and worse and worse every single week. The offensive line is literally it's a death sentence for him, honestly. I believe in Baker. I believe in the Bucks offense. I believe in their defense. I think they're going to take this game.
I agree. The rookie wide receiver for the Bucks, Emeka Ibuka, he looked really good. Baker looked sharp. Yeah, I think the Bucks take this. The Texans didn't look good last week. I think they scored 9 points. CJ Stroud is just not able to get the ball out. The offensive line is just crumbling. Yeah, Tampa Bay.
And yeah, in the last game of the week, Chargers at Raiders. Who allowed this game to be in primetime?
I have no idea. Oh, awful. I mean, we'll see Genty, which is going to be fun. We'll see Omarion Hampton on the Chargers. That's going to be fun. And Herbert looked good. Land McConkey. We have Gino threw for almost 400 last week. I mean, he looked good. It could end up being a good game. On paper, it doesn't look good, but I think people may be surprised by this game. It might have a lot of firepower to it.
Who do you have winning?
Give me the Chargers. Go to start off the season 2-0.
Yeah, I agree. The Raiders are a way less formidable opponent than the Chiefs, and I'll as well take the Chargers to win that. I think it'll be less entertaining than you do. I think it might be a blowout. But we'll see. I'm really looking forward to this week.
Same as with every week. Football's back, baby. And we're enjoying every last minute of it. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, follow, like, comment. We like to hate comments, don't we?
We do. We love it.
Yes.
Keep them coming.
I keep reading them every single week. It brings me immense joy. So keep it coming. You know who you are.
Peace out.